Even though it's mid-November, I haven't taken out all of my tomato plants yet, so come take a look and see which tomato varieties are still going. I have removed most of my tomato plants, but I'm going to let the rest stay for as long as they keep producing, and that might be for a while because here in Northern California in Zone 9B, we haven't seen any frost yet. Other people in Northern California have seen some frost, but we have a ton of microclimates here, and our first frost date isn't until mid-December. And it doesn't frost over every night, we don't really get hard freezes, and our last frost date is pretty early in the winter, so that's why some of these tomatoes can hang on for so long. This is the Fair to Calfee tomato, and it is still going. There is a tomato I should have picked a while ago, but I didn't get to it, but the foliage is still looking robust in some areas. I may pull it soon because I haven't seen any new flowers on it yet, but it looks like some might be starting to pop through. And this is a new variety for me this year, so I am curious to see how long it can produce because the tomatoes from it are larger than a cherry tomato. Next up is the mini bell tomato, and I am not surprised at all by this one. Some of the foliage is looking a little scraggly, but it's mostly because I haven't pruned it in a while, but the majority of the plant still looks great. Even though it's considered a determinate variety or a semi-determinate to some people, for the last 2 years, I have had this variety produce through February, and then it finally keeled over. And that's why I keep growing this variety, because it can handle colder weather and still produce a decent amount, making it worth it to me to let it take up just a little bit of real estate in the garden. This is my sun gold plant, and as you can see, there is some new foliage coming through, and there's a decent amount of flowers showing up on it, and from what I have seen, they mature pretty quickly once they flower. This is the tomato that I crossed last year that I named Indigo Banana. It was crossed with an Indigo Kumquat and a Banana Legs tomato, and last year the Indigo Kumquat gave me a tomato in December. So it looks like some of those genetics, making it a bit tolerable to colder weather, have been carried over into this cross, even if the foliage looks pretty bad. This is the Honey Drop tomato, and last year this tomato produced early in the year for me, but this year it started to produce late. I haven't pruned it in a while, so some of the leaves and stems don't look great, but overall the plant is looking pretty lush for this time of year and has quite a few flowers on it. This is the Tropical Sunset tomato, and the plant is looking a little skinny and is starting to look weaker, but it is still producing, and I have been getting a few tomatoes from it each week. This is the Chocolate Stripes tomato, and I wasn't planning on growing it next year because I felt like it took forever for the plant to produce, and the flavor was just okay. But as you can see here, it seems to be doing pretty well, so maybe for the sake of having homegrown fall and winter tomatoes, it might be worth more consideration for next year's lineup. This is Thorburns Terracotta, and this has been a slow one this year, and for what's supposed to be a larger slicer type tomato, I am surprised it's had the will to hang on and start producing some late season tomatoes. And last, we have Bonnie Best. I liked this tomato. It's a nice classic tomato, but I wasn't planning on growing it next year, but the plant is looking pretty healthy, so if it does produce pretty well for a few more weeks, it might be another variety that I reconsider keeping in the lineup for next year's tomatoes. So there you have it, a few tomato varieties that are still hanging in there. If you live in a warmer climate, these may be some varieties you might want to look into, but of course, things change and vary from year to year.